In this part of the course, we're going to start building our first app. And as we've done in the previous course, we've got a bit of a spec here. This is it. What we're going to be doing is we've got our file and our close like we've done on other apps we've done. We're going to stop and have a customer combo here, which will allow us to enter a customer number. We'll have a bit of a help button as we've done in other courses. Then we'll have a chart control, and it's going to be a bar chart, and it's going to by month and a year give us the value of invoices in each month. Fairly straightforward. A little bit of a spec here. We're going to use a custom data source. It's going to do a query for all the invoices. It's going to sort it by date, and it's going to sum the invoice value by the month. And then a nice little bit is when we click on any of the bars, what we actually want it to do is we want to show all the individual invoices that go in to make that total value there. And we'll do that by populating the list view using a custom data source, but passing it both the customer number from the one that we entered in the toolbar here, plus the invoice, year and month that we've picked up from the bar. So let's get cracking and see what comes of that. I've done some preliminary work on our example that we're going to be working through. None of this should come as a surprise for you. All the topics have been covered in previous courses, but let's just go and have a quick look at what I've set up. Initially, our data sources, so we'll go here, main chart data source. It's a custom data source. We're going to directly to the SQL table, Syspro table. Key though here is our XML return style is for a chart. Remember the layout from the previous PowerPoint slide. It's a format of points that are coming from the query. Let's have a quick look at the SQL statement. So we've got a select statement here. We're getting stuff from AR invoice table where the customer number is equal to the primary key, the %key %. Remember, explanation of these variables are down here. We're picking up a number of columns. Key to this though is that we are creating an invoice value which is the sum of the currency values, the invoice values really, and we're also counting the number of invoices that go into that sum. And we're making sure that the invoice date looks like YYMM, which is year, month, month. We're grouping by invoice, year, month, and customer so that these sums and counts will be for that particular month. And then we're sequencing in the same order. So it's very, very straightforward piece of SQL. Let's have a quick look at the drill down list view that we've got. So when we're going to click on a chart, we're going to be going to a list view. Again, it's a custom data source. This time the XML return is for a list view because that's what we're going to be populating automatically. And if we have a quick look at the SQL statement, what we have here is a select statements on AR invoice where the customer is equal to the primary key and the invoice year and the invoice month are key 2 and key 3. So we will get a list of invoices that go into that month. Remember, %key 2 and 3 come from the chart, and %key comes from the toolbar. So you can imagine it's relatively straightforward for App Designer to call these. So let's have a quick look at the little bit of VB script that we've got. And it's almost identical to the previous examples that we've been working through. Series of constants for our toolbar buttons. There's our on initialization event. We're not using it at the moment. Here's our on user event. We're checking for event type of toolbar event. So we basically close the app when we press the close button. We power up our online or our dialog box for the help. Not doing anything in my code when we press the customer button, and a bit of an error message. All very, very simple, all done before. So with that, a little review, let's go forward and start adding our control, our chart control. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is add our chart. It's right at the top of the list here, so we just click on that. and it will add a default chart layout, bar chart and stuff like that. As with all the other controls, we've got a pane properties, so let's get that sorted out and get those out of the way. So we'll call that sales summary. Nothing else in there that we want to change at the moment, so we'll collapse that. Now we start to set properties for the chart control as a whole. Font can stay the same. On here, I think I'm going to choose a different palette, sort of brighter than the default. And the appearance affects the background, so you see that going grey. Obviously, you can set them to all sorts of things and play for hours on that. Number of diagrams, series, and diagram direction are important. Now, at the moment, as we start our app, we've only got one diagram, we've only got one series, so there's no other thing to do. But as we add diagrams and series, you will see them coming into effect. Show series labels. Well, if you tick that, you'll see that the values appear on top of the barcodes or not, as the case may be. Legend, well, at the moment, it's on the right-hand side here. And again, you know, you can experiment, see what's what. And what I've often found is that you sort of set off with an idea. And then when you actually run your app, you think, well, I need a bit more real estate on the form, and you move it. In this instance, what I'm going to do is actually remove it totally because it's not really required. There's only one value in it. So, you know, and it is going to be the invoice value. Number of decimals, well, we're summing invoices, so I'm not sure that we need the decimals of an invoice. We do need 1,000 separators. Angled labels are quite interesting. If you look at the bottom here now, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we click angled labels, they go on a 45-degree slope. For us, it's actually quite useful because our labels are going to be YYYMM, so year and month, and it's quite a long label. And therefore angling them, you can get more labels in alongside each other. We're not bothered about the date format because we're actually formatting it ourselves. So, and just one other thing here is that you can actually have a secondary y-axis, so that if you are running two series in here, but maybe one of it might be invoice value and one might be an invoice count, and therefore the y-axis, and that's this axis here, the scale on it are different, then it allows you to put two scales, one for value and one for invoice count on there. So let's have a look at our diagram now. So it is diagram 1 we want. We're not at the moment not bothered with titles, not rotating it. I just want to mess around with the color a little bit. So I'm changing the background color here. The interlacing is the interlacing of this color with the next colors. And if we set it to a y-axis, then we get stripes. And I find it easier to be able to sort of draw my eye across to the scale, which is fine. Not bothered about that. We have a look at our series now. We can actually select our series. It's going to be a bar chart. We're not displaying a legend, so that's not a problem. This series 1 is going into diagram 1, which is fine. We'll be looking at the tooltip a little bit later on, but as you hover over a bar, you'll be able to see a tooltip. So that's looking pretty good. So we'll just now go on to chart binding. Now all we've got to do is add a data source to our chart so that it knows where to get its data from. So just a reminder, that tab there is the properties of our control, setting up the charts. This tab here is telling it where are you going to get your data from and how am I to chart it. So we'll go to our data sources here. Main chart SQL is the one that we want. So it knows where the data is. And now what it's saying is, where are you going to get the value to put on the label? That's down here. So that's first one's first will be the invoice date. That's the YYYMM it's going to pick up. And then it's saying, well, what value are you going to be putting or charting in your bar chart? And that was actually invoice value. Fine. Now we will be looking at drill down shortly, and once we put our list view on, so we'll be coming back to here. But as far as the chart's concerned, that's all we've got to do. The only other thing we've actually got to do is go to the customer combo, and go to the data sources here and check this data source to say when and apply it and then which says when the customer number changes, please execute that data source. And what happens when that data source is executed? It says, aha, I am linked to this control, chart control, populate the chart control. And it's as straightforward as that. So all we've got to do now is actually run our application and see actually what happens. Good. Okay, so it's looking like we expect. We've got our file and our close thing here. We've got a customer, we've got a help, we've got a bit of a graph. So let's just bang in a customer number and see actually what happens. Okay, that's looking promising. Here are our dates. Notice our angled labels. It's going over just over a year or so. And there are our values. So yeah, that's looking quite good, quite happy with that. So we'll close this. Now, interestingly, I don't know if you noticed, but as we ran our application and it saved the application, it came up with a message saying, because we've got a chart or a tile in here, App Designer is closing down the editor and running the app. Now, the reason it has to do that is because of the nature of the chart control. We need to flush it out of memory and get it reloaded again. So what we basically have to do is simply go back into our start page here, and we'll find our SQL example and just reload it for editing. Okay, so now what we're going to do is move on to create our list view. Good. So what we've got to do now is add our list view so that when we click on a bar, it will drill down to the individual invoices that go into making the sum of the bar. So first things first, we've actually got to add our list view. There we go. And what we'll do here is, I'm going to call it list of invoices. Ignore that little error message. So what we want to do now is come down to the binding, and we want to bind the data to a data source. So we're actually going to go to a custom data source, and we're going to select that data source. So we're going to do the drill down one. There we go. And then we're going to add columns. It's straightforward. And for the sake of ease, we'll just add all three, add the selected ones, and away we go. So that's relatively straightforward. The only other thing is, of course, we don't want this this pane visible. So what we will do is we will show the pane as a dialog box, which means that when the app starts, it will be invisible and it will appear when we come and click on our chart. So the next thing, now that that list view has got its columns, it knows where it's going to get its data from. We've just got to configure the chart now to do that when it actually drills down. So let's go and see how we do that. So we come down to the data binding here. Well, first of all, what we'll do is we'll add our tooltip, which is here. So click to, oops, click to show invoice. Oh gosh, need a new keyboard. Click to show invoices, which is fine. So as we hover over this, it'll show that. And then if we go to data binding, what we're saying is, yes, we want to drill down. What we want to drill down to, and this is the other controls on our app. So what we are saying is we actually want to go to our list view called list of invoices, which is great. Where are you going to get the primary key from? Well, actually, I'm going to get it from the customer combo. Where are you going to get key 2 from? And key 2 was the year, and then key 3 was the month. So the key percent key, percent key 2%, percent key 3%, straightforward as that. And with a bit of luck and fair wind, that's all we've actually got to do. So let's run this, save it. There's a little warning notice there. Okay, that's looking pretty good. So we'll pop that in there. Yeah, looking good. Now, if we hover over this, we're getting the our tooltip, click to show invoices, and it's actually showing us the label and the value. So if we click on this, there we go. So as it happens, there's only one invoice going into that value. Let's see if we can find one with more invoices on. Okay, well, we'll find out a little bit later on, but you get the general idea. So without any VB script coding at all, the chart is populated, and we've provided a drill down into a dialog box. So it's pretty good, I think. So let's we'll call that a day for our first effort on our application 1, and we will go on to specification of our app 2.